As we edge closer to Paris 2024, South Africa's athletes remain hard at work to ensure that they make their mark at the global showpiece. Every Thursday, we continue to journey towards the Olympic and Paralympic Games and get to know our Opex athletes and Team SA hopefuls a bit better. Today, we speak to Canoeist Esti Olivier, who defied serious health problems and the disappointment of missing out on Tokyo 2020 due to a lack of funding, and has now bounced back to secure 2 quotas for Paris 2024. She's right here in studio with me, and thank you so much for making the time, Esti. And I suppose it is finally you getting that qualification for Paris 2024. What are the emotions right now? Is it more relief? Is it excitement? What is it that, first comes to mind when you're thinking, I've qualified for Paris?
Yeah, I think, and I said it before, I think it's still sinking in.
Yeah.
I've had so many challenges up until now, and I think this week when I was finally able to start training without any limitations, it starts feeling real. The body's starting to hurt and the adrenaline starting to pump, and it feels like I'm moving forward towards the goal. So, but yeah, it's definitely a lifelong dream that's finally happening.
And it's finally happening, but you really had to jostle for it, didn't you? A shootout is what it came down to when it came to you qualifying in that K2 race. And you had to beat out stiff competition. Bronze medalist Bridget Hartley, former world surf ski champion Michelle Byrne, part of the people you had to get ahead of.
Yeah, no, Bridge was always a very fierce competitor. So, if she lines up, she's not going to give it to you on a silver platter. So, definitely a much harder weekend than I anticipated. I didn't think it was going to be that tough, but it was such a mental game with everything on the line. But that's how we grow. So, good weekend of racing in the books.
And you're talking about the mental fortitude, because that is something that's quite important, especially in canoeing. What do you think kept you anchored and grounded in that moment to make sure that you were able to take it all the way?
I'm not going to lie, I did struggle. The Saturday when we lost the second race, I was broken. And I just told my husband, just take me home. We're going to phone anyone, and we're not going to talk sports, and we're just going to go be normal people. And I had to kind of remove myself from what's at stake and stop thinking about what's on the line to lose. And that's kind of just how I got through it. And, without trying to sound arrogant, I knew we were the better boat. We just had to get it together. And Tiff and I, we know each other really well, and we both have different ways of dealing with this type of stress. So she went and she spent the day with her family, and I spent the day with mine, and we got back and we were backing each other 100%, and we knew that would be enough, and luckily it was.
Yeah, and you're referring to your partner, Tiffany Koch. How challenging was that relationship, considering the fact that she's based in Durban, you're this side, and you have to sort of coordinate when you train and how things go about?
Yeah, look, it's not ideal for a crew boat to live in 2 different provinces. But, we both work, so we have time constraints as well. But I travel down to Durban as often as I can, because I'm in the beneficial position to have some funding from the Opex program to be able to go down for training camps. Sadly, we won't be able to have one between the SA Champs and the World Cups coming up now, because work has just been insane. But as long as we both know exactly what we need to improve on as individual athletes, we'll be able to put it together in the K2, because we've got years and years of experience together, so I'm not too worried about that.
Now, you just touched on funding. You're saying you're in a beneficial position now where you have funding from the Opex program, you're able to go to Durban, but that wasn't the case in 2020. Funding is actually what stopped you from going to the Tokyo Olympics. Let's just reflect quickly about that and what it means now, because it might be somewhat of an empty victory when you're thinking, well, I've qualified, but I've been here before and I wasn't able to go to the Games.
Yeah, look, Tokyo almost broke me. That was extremely tough, having qualified, having met all the international requirements, and just having not met the additional requirements put on us on a local stage. I think if the COVID year didn't come, I probably would have gone down a different path. I think that 2020 year gave me time to reflect and to slow down and to just gather myself after the disappointment in order to go and try and qualify, get at the global qualifier that was in Russia, in Banal. But yeah, the funding, it makes a difference. I got the Opex funding from last year, and even though, you know, it's not a month to month, I don't have to work as many jobs to fund my sports. So I know that I can train, and there's funding to go on training camps and on tours and go and compete internationally. It's not something I have to worry about, additional to just surviving every month. So it's a massive, massive help, and our athletes really, really need it.
And I often have a conversation with Olympic athletes in particular, just to understand what it is about Olympics that's different to any other competition. You've mentioned, you know, world championships and other competitions that you go to, but there's something different about the Olympics, isn't it? I know there's a quote that is attributed to you, that racing is like a cake after having 4 years of dieting. Is that what it really feels like to be at the Olympics?
Like you finally made it. Like I honestly think the selections and the stress that we had with nationals, is going to be less for the Olympics. For the Olympics, it's just like the excitement of being there. You've made it. It's 4 years of, well, for me, it's been 20 years of unbelievable hard work, jumping obstacles, getting through hoops, amazing highs in extremely low lows. So I think once you're there, you know, everything on top of that's just the cherry on the cake. Like, obviously, you want your best performance, and a medal is what everyone dreams of, but you need to be just in the moment, and the Olympics, I think, is just such a spectacle, and it's the highest level of anything in sports. So it's every sportsman's dream. That's what it's all about.
And you get to eat that cake after 4 years, so congratulations yet again. Let's look at what your goals are going to be now for Paris. You've already qualified. What do you think is, or have you set yourself personal targets in terms of where you want to finish or how you want to perform in Paris?
Yeah, look, I honestly think I do have the ability to podium. Yeah. When you toe the line on any sporting moment, if you're in that race, you have just as much a shot as anyone else next to you, regardless of their history. You know, what they managed to do yesterday, that's yesterday. Yeah. You need to perform now. So I'm there to just, every single race must be at my absolute best performance, and that's what I'm going for. I have 3 races, and every single one has to be the best I have to offer, and the results will come from that. You know, like I said, everyone dreams for a medal, and that's what you're gunning for. I mean, I'm not lining up to lose. Yeah. But if I can cross a line and feel like that was everything, you know, like I couldn't give more, I couldn't change anything, it will give you that satisfaction that I think we've been working towards. And
is your approach going to be different to the various events? You've mentioned 3 of them, and of course the obvious distinction is the K1 and K2, where one is a solo, the other is a tandem. Are you going to be approaching them any differently?
I think so. I mean, there'll be slight differences. It's the same distance, so both of them are 500-meter races. Yeah. But the race plan is slightly different, and there are some technical differences between the K2 and the K1. Obviously, Tiff and I need to be on level ground for the K2, same mindset, ready to go. But yeah, I think, you know, I have my routine, and I'll just go through that because that's what you're comfortable with, and that kind of settles you in your nerves.
Yeah, Esti, all the best. Thank you so much for making time. And of course, you've got one more competition coming up in Hungary next month before you head off to Paris. So all the best for that as well.
Thank you.
Right, well, that is Esti Olivier, of course, a canoeist, and heading to Paris 2024, where she's going to be competing in those events and just giving her expectations as they lead up to that big competition. Of course, every Thursday, that's what we'll be doing here on the Sports Desk, getting to know our athletes a little bit better as we build up to Paris 2024.